What we're looking at now is how to choose our test data to test a program, and we'll also look at a test plan which we could formulate or do for a certain problem. And so the first sort of things which we need to be looking at testing, if statements are very worthwhile testing, and the reason is that out of an if statement comes two branches. So there'll be the branch if something is true, and there'll be the branch if something is false. And we want to check both of those branches. So in this case, the test data we would be likely to use would be that A is 10, because that's checking that A is 10 or more, which will come down this line here. And we're also going to check to see if A is 9, and that's the true one. So A is less than 10, and the 9 will check that for us. So there's at least two tests we want to do, and we change the value of A to 9 and 10 and test to see that each of the paths through our program work correctly. This type of test, because it's right on the border of where it will switch the two paths, assuming that's an integer, because it's right on the border, we call it a borderline test. Then we also want to test things like loops and iterations. And so in this case here, we've got a nice simple while loop, and similar sort of thing. Because it's a Boolean, we probably want to check to see whether the lives is equal to 0. So is lives 0? Because if it's 0, then we're going to go down the false line here. If it's 1, then we're going to go down the true, because 1 is greater than 0. And so again, we're checking some borderline data. And in addition to that, there's two other types of data which we can check, and these are called valid data. And so this is data that's valid, so correct sort of data, and invalid data. Correct's probably not the right word for these things. So possible data would be valid. So if I ask for an email address, I'm going to have something, and I'm going to have an @ symbol, and there's going to be a .com or .co.uk or whatever at the end. So I can tell that it's valid, but I can't necessarily tell it's the correct address. And I want to also check invalid data. This is more for text that I'm putting in. So invalid data would be things, if it's asked for an email address and I don't put an @ symbol in, that's invalid data. And I want to test that both of these get caught. So what we have here is a program which is going to take a name as an input, and that name should be 20 characters or fewer. And this is the way that we lay out a test plan. Obviously some people would do slightly different. They might not have whether the test is passed at the end, but the basic features of this will be what are in test plans. And so we've got the test data, that's the data which we're going to put input into the system. We've got the purpose, so that's the reason that we're doing the test in kind of a human written way. Then we've got the reason for the test, so remember there's those three tests: valid, invalid and borderline. And then what we expect the outcome to be. And finally, when we actually do the test, we'll say what the outcome is. If these two match, we can tick off that the test has been passed. If they don't match, we need to go and fix the bug, fix the error, and then we can do the test again. And so in this case here, I've got some data which is Adam, perfectly legitimate name, so it's valid data. I'm checking to see that it takes a name, and my expected outcome is that it prints on the screen, hello Adam. Maybe I want to check to see that it can do double-barreled names, so I put a double-barreled name in, that's valid data, and check to see that that's the case as well. Maybe I don't want to take numbers or weird characters, so I put in some invalid data, in this case, characters that should be rejected, and it requests the name again, and I can check to see that my program does that. And then I may have that 20 character limit, so I would test to see that it will take the 20 characters, and I'll test to see that it won't take the 21 characters, and that it asks for the name again. And so this is just an example test plan, example of what the columns are called, how you lay it out, and what sort of information you're putting in it.